Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I wanted to give a review today, probably a bit of a shorter one on the Reptilia DOT Mount as I have here, currently on a Wasser 1063, and I'm using this with a Aimpoint CompM5. So far, I've been using this quite a bit and I've been really liking it, though it's not without a few things to note as well. So, did want to talk about them today. Starting with the height. So the height I have here, this is a 1.93. They also offer your standard 1.5-ish height. And this works really well on the AK. Now personally, I've recently, over probably the past year approximately or so, become a really big fan of the quite tall mounts. They're just a lot more comfortable for me because you don't need to crunch your neck down or anything like that on the rifle. In this case of the 1.93 on this AK, of course, keep in mind you have quite a bit more offset and everything's just quite a bit higher because you have the dust cover and all that on an AK. This is a very comfortable height for me. Personally, when I move to an AR, I actually do prefer a little bit higher. Like you can see here on this EOTech, I have this mounted on a Unity riser, which is very comfortable. Potentially, maybe even slightly higher is what I would prefer, but this works well, and I have no complaints there. But a 1.9 I have found is just like ever so slightly lower than I would prefer. Still, it's a pretty good height and there's no complaints there. And you do get a little bit more contact with your cheek if that's what you're looking for with a 1.9 compared to 2-inch and above. So depending on how you're used to shooting, that may be something you would want to seek out more, or maybe you want to go even higher. But in my case, AR, I would prefer something slightly higher. AK, I would say it's ideal. Now, one other thing to keep in mind, which I didn't realize when I bought this, is, so when you're actually using this, as I said, the height is very comfortable, but when you're installing this, it does cause some issues. So this ships with a hex key, which works fine, by the way, to attach your optic to the optic mount itself. However, I'm a little bit OCD about getting the perfect torques, and the CompM5 recommends that you get 12 inch-pounds or 1 foot-pound of torque and Loctite it as well. Now, the issue there, of course, is you can't torque with just your standard hex key that just comes in, just one of those, L-shaped ones that comes with a bunch of the accessories you can buy. So I got it to about 12 inches, and that's as good as I can get. I did actually try picking up a pair of these extra long hex keys, just a random set off of Amazon, but they taper a bit too late and they don't fit either. So when you're getting this tall of a mount, do keep in mind that you are going to need to either kind of just estimate the torque and really make sure not to over torque it. And of course, you don't want to have too little either, because then it's not going to stay on and that's really bad. But so far, I would say I'm decent at kind of just estimating torques. Obviously, it's never going to be as exact as actually getting a torque wrench on here, but it has held up really well so far. I have close to 1,000 rounds through this so far, and it's held up great. It's still holding 0, and yeah, totally solid. And then the way it attaches to the rail itself is you just have one screw right here on the left side, which you can see right there, and it works great. One thing I do particularly like about this, and it actually is an advertised feature as well on their site, is that this is very low profile. And I was comparing and considering buying either this mount or the Geissele. Ultimately, the reason I opted for this Reptilia instead of the Geissele is because it is so low profile. On the Geissele, you do have kind of a big bolt sticking out of the side. It's very sturdy and reliable, but I don't think you really need it. You don't really need that much, especially on something like this, and this has held up great. As I said, I have about 1,000 through here with this optic on here. Nothing too abusive, but regular just use, and it's held up extremely well. One other thing, I did mention torque earlier and how that was kind of an issue on the optic to the mount itself, but what is nice is you have a torque value written right here on the side that you can see, torque to 45 inch-pounds on the fastener that goes to the Picatinny itself. As I said, I always like that, and one of the nice things that I do like about having the torque value engraved on the side of the mount itself is that way if I either lose the documentation for some mounts where they include it on the installation instructions, it comes with it, or if I don't have internet access to look it up, I can always just look at the side of the mount and know exactly what it needs to be torqued to, and that's always really nice. But overall, I do like the low profile design of this. There's not a whole lot sticking out on the sides, so less snag points is always good. Now, one other thing about this, being that it only attaches with this one screw here, of course this isn't a QD, so if you want to run this with backup iron sights, do keep in mind that you can't just rip this optic off on the off chance that it fails. You'll need to seek out different solutions in that regard if that's the route you want to go. One last thing I wanted to touch on also is the color options. As you can see, I have this in FDE. It looks a little bit more gold in this current lighting, but it's a good color, and I always do like FDE mounts, or just something that's not totally black, because it does kind of camouflage just that little bit better. But of course you can spray paint it, and probably should spray paint it in a lot of cases, just so it, you know, cuts down on the glare and the IR remission and all that. But it is good there. For a little bit of a comparison, just to help a little bit, I have here a Geissele 416 handguard, of course, in their desert dirt color. This is a color comparison here because it's also a tannadized option. And you can see that they're actually a pretty close color match, despite this being technically desert dirt and this technically being FDE. They do also offer a clear anodized version. That's only offered through one of their partner stores. I'm not totally sure on how that works, but I haven't really seen any pictures of it. I just went with FDE because I bought it through one of the different retailers, and it's fine. I don't really mind. So you do have three options: black, clear, and then the FDE, as I have here. For a more direct color comparison between actual FDE Cerakote, which is what this whole rifle has going for it, you can see this is quite a bit. Of course, anodization is always going to have a bit more gloss to it, but other than that, it actually is a pretty close color match, which is cool. So that's it. Pretty short review overall. I like this mount, as I said. It's held up really well. The only issue I had with it was with installation, just because I'm a bit of a stickler for torque values, but ultimately it has held up, even though I was worried about it, and I don't really have any complaints. It's good. So I would definitely recommend it. It's not the most expensive. It's not the most cheap either. It seems like a pretty good just option for price as well. So at least right now when I'm recording this, that is, those always change, seems like. But thank you all for watching. Let me know if you have any other questions on this or anything else, or any suggestions for other videos you'd like me to do in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope to see you all in the next one. Take care, and I'll see you all then.